Hey, hey, hey! Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Monday Morning Jumpstart. This is Karen Hilton, founder and chief vision caster for the Rock Your Vision Masterclass community and founder of TAP Executive Coaching. If you are joining us this morning, I want you to know you came to the right place to jumpstart your week. This is the place right here where me and a few of my favorite people come together to do a few things. We're going to help you get focused, connect to your purpose, and develop perspective to live the life you were meant to live. So you know how we do it. If you are coming back and you are one of our regulars, welcome back. We got a lot to talk about this morning. I am so excited about our guest today. He is, when I heard his story, I want you to know it took my breath away. And so I asked him to join the tribe live and in living color in the stream to really lean in and just kind of unpack some of his experience. And I want you to know, some of y'all got some stories and some testimonies, and I know it's hard to talk about sometimes, but I want you to know, I think 2020 is the year of breakthrough. I know we had a bit of a breakdown, but 2021 is coming until the Lord returns. It's coming. We got stuff to do. So we've gathered right here, and this morning, we are going to have an amazing conversation with our guest. So if you are an old timer, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. We're excited to have you. We are a community of professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders in general. And when we talk about leadership, we're not talking about a title. We're not talking about a role necessarily. We're talking about a lifestyle. Leadership is a lifestyle. So whether you are leading others and you are in the classroom, or maybe you're in the boardroom, maybe you're at your home, or maybe you're trying to build houses for other people, whatever it is you're doing, this is the place for you. We're excited to have you. Welcome. Come on in. And you know how we do it. We grab our coffee, our tea, whatever your morning kind of beverages to kickstart. We want you to come on in here. We got a lot going on. I've got one of my roadies right here. It's Coach Dr. Lawrence Henderson. Come on, Coach Lawrence. How you doing this morning? I can't hear you. I can't hear you, buddy.
Here we go. That's why you got to press the button. Hey, I was so gassed up, didn't even hit the button right. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad you were able to make it one more day, and it's always a pleasure to be here with you, Karen, and living legend, Mr. Williams in the building.
Oh, that is so funny to me when I hear that. I personally worked with two people that were called living legends, and I often wonder what is Edwin Hawkins and Walter Hawkins thinking about when people say that. So I don't know what they were thinking, but when you just said that, Lawrence, I thought to myself, living legend. I'm not even gotten out of my 50s yet. What is that all about?
That just means you're doing epic stuff right now. That's what that means. Every single day is epic.
But you know what's funny? I think it was Pastor Andy Smith who's in the stream this morning. I'm going to say hey to everybody in a minute, but he was talking about the fact that I think it was Joshua. Pastor Andy, I need you to lean into the comments really in here for a minute. Who served, right? He was busy serving, and at some point he got elevated. But the path to leadership and the path to elevation isn't going from the crib right to the throne room. It's a process. We all know it's a process. And Phil, I don't know about you. I want to hear more about your story in a minute. But you did the work. You served. You leaned in. You were in the shadows. And I told you when I met you, there is something about you that I think this is your season. I think God is getting ready to rock your world. I think He's getting ready to wreck you in the best kind of way. So I'm just saying, I think legend is appropriate.
So what I will say to you is I receive all of that. And we're going to go forward with that.
We're going to go forward with that. I absolutely love that. Let's jump into the stream. Lawrence, who do we have in the stream this morning?
Looks like we got Beverly Wilkes.
Hey, what's up?
We got Christy Kent.
Christy!
Hey, we got Pastor Andy Smith.
Oh.
But I'm sure the usual suspects are gonna work their way on in this morning.
Yeah. Speaking of which, listen, if you are joining us in the live stream, maybe you're on YouTube. I want to thank you if you're part of our YouTube community. Do us a favor, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe, because every time we go live, every time we post something, you'll get that notification. We want to make sure that you are getting the benefit of this amazing content, our guests and our community. And we want to thank you for joining. If you are on the live stream in Facebook, go ahead and share. We would appreciate so much. We bring together a community of experts, a community of community leaders themselves, corporate leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs who are actually doing it. And in this space, we lean in to be able to bless you, to be able to give you some power plays that you can go and use today, right? So go ahead and share, if you will, start a watch party, let people know, hey, Monday Morning Jumpstart is on. We are here just for you. Well, we've said hey to everybody in the live stream, but now I want to introduce our guest. I actually met Phil Williams through Coach Lawrence Henderson. And I just want to say a word about community, right? And about network. So often network gets a bad rap, doesn't it, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, oh, networking is cheesy and, all that sort of a thing. But listen to me, humans are relational beings. Even if you're an introvert, right? We're relational beings. You don't do anything and you don't grow anything in the absence of others. You grow things, you develop things in the absence of or in the presence of others. And so, Lawrence, I'm going to ask you, let's see, where are you? You're on this side. I'm going to ask you to introduce Mr. Phil Williams, because you guys have been through some things together. I think you need to do the introduction this morning.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karen. And I'll introduce Phil in the form of a story. And when me and Phil first encountered each other as people, if you're not familiar with the Atlanta scene, there are several kind of gatekeepers as it pertains to HR and some other things. So Phil, as a board member of SHRM Atlanta, and other HR organizations, we found our way messing around in each other's LinkedIn inbox, and we connected there. And again, this is a testament to extending yourself, not just with the shallow, hey, we got similar connections, let's be friends and like each other's stuff, right? But it extended to before pre-pandemic. We were able to meet in person at Panera Bread and here in Douglasville, Georgia. And from the moment I sat down with Phil, I was like, he has some breadth, he has some depth and some authenticity, which for me is a huge thing. Somebody who really filters everything through my values, my connections, my tribe. I filter through my values. And it probably wasn't 5 minutes. And I wrote myself a note, was like, Phil's going to be a fast friend. I'm going to stay connected because he's a powerhouse. Yeah. And those are the types of people that I know I want to help me raise my lid. Mm-hmm. And Phil is one of those people that he is a giver. He is, again, a learner, and he'll ask you, he's a coach. So he'll ask lots of questions. So anybody wants to meet with Phil, you're going to get asked a bunch of questions, and he's going to come with his list. He going to come ready. So I am.
And don't let the quiet fool you.
Exactly. It is that quiet storm that's about to roll up in your life. So if you don't want no disruption, don't ask Phil to coffee. So Mr. Phil Williams, welcome, sir. Thank you.
Y'all give it up for Mr. Phil Williams right here.
Oh, Lawrence, thank you so much for that introduction. I think I can live up to being your friend. The powerhouse piece, I'm kind of on the fence about the powerhouse piece. But anyway, I have to tell you, though, that meeting at Panera Bread, I try my best to make sure I'm on time someplace. And so I thought, I'm going to be on time. And I was there before time. And I looked to my right, and it's like, dang, he's already here. So I want to thank you for showing up on time, and I really appreciate our friendship. We actually met, I think, Lawrence, before that. There was an event, I want to say in Alpharetta, and we were working with a bunch of students. I don't know if you remember that. And
I
so
do.
sitting on one end, I was on the other. And, like you said, there are certain gatekeepers even within our own community. And so you try really hard. I know for me, I don't have a problem opening the gate and just walking in myself, except for when you have big dogs like Karen has. But when I walk in, I usually try to gravitate toward something that feels good in my spirit about. And so I remember saying hello to you. You were talking to someone else, and my mother had this thing about having good manners. And when you see people talking, you don't go stand and interrupt their conversation. You say hello and you keep moving. So that's what happened. That's what I remember. But thank you for your friendship. So I'm not really sure, Karen, where to start, except I'll start at the beginning. And I always think about my life, from the perspective of how does what I have done relate to some scripture that I can grab a hold of. Mm-hmm. And, I've always been taught that none of us could ever live by and through the entire Old Testament, because even just with the 10 Commandments, I think all of us would be out of here if it wasn't for God's dispensation into the New Testament. But my experience goes back to, I think it's Malachi chapter 3, verse 3, where it talks about the refiner's fire. So that gets me to this point. I left Merrill Lynch back in 2006 because I had been doing operations and HR for 14 of 23 years, and those 14 years were in leadership. And I thought, if I never ever have to margin another account, if I never ever have to send a client a notice that his orange juice contracts are about to expire, if I never ever have to liquidate another account or take in another deposit or verify securities or deal with, stock options, then I'm okay. But what I couldn't let go of was this internal self-motivation of being a people leader. So I left with the intent of going back to school, and it was a great plan. And as always, all of our plans don't always work out the way that we want them to. Mm-hmm. So in walks Bishop Walter Hawkins, and he asked me if I would help him in part of the reorganization or to organize his fellowship. And of course, being an active member in the church, I said, absolutely, yes. And we did that for a number of years. And unfortunately, in that time period, he developed pancreatic cancer, and he was with us for another 2 years.
Right.
But it was at that point, Karen and Lawrence, that I had already enrolled in school. And I have to say that he was extremely proud of me that I did that. Mm-hmm. So, life is going on. He passes away. I moved back to Florida with my family. I'm in school. My plan and my why seems very clear. A friend of mine, Brother Carlton Burgess, wrote this song that says, after the rain, the sun will shine again. So for me, the sun was shining, and I could see this awesome plan. So then, for some other reason, I developed what I thought was bronchitis. And I go to the doctor, and there was this, the battery of tests. Yeah, that's what it looks like, this deep-seated cough. So, okay. So I take penicillin, and I've used penicillin before. Well, my body said, I'm sorry, but that doesn't work for us anymore. And you've taken so much of it. Now I have to get out of your system. And how we do that is I'm literally going to set you on fire. So what happens for me is I am itching uncontrollably. And the night that I realized something is really wrong is I went to rub my face and my skin peeled back. And I thought, something's not right here. So, I guess any makeup artist probably would say, you're crazy. So I pushed the skin back up so I couldn't see what was going on.
Wow.
So the next day, my brother and my sister-in-law noticed, and, I kind of like shrugged it off.
Right.
But as time would go on, the itching got worse, and no amount of Benadryl would stop this thing. So now, when I try to just simply get up to go into the kitchen or to the bathroom, I would literally pass out before I could make the second step.
My God.
So now, things are not getting any better. And so my sister-in-law says, something is wrong, calling 911. It's like, oh my God, I've never ridden in an ambulance before. And so they take me to the hospital, the local hospital in Florida. At the time, they really didn't know what was going on, and things were getting progressively worse. Mm-hmm. Now, by this time, you guys, my skin is sloughing from my flesh. And if you know what that means, it's literally peeling away. And there's no painkillers going on. It is, I guess in the words of someone I heard say, it was supercalifragilisticexpialidociously painful. This is probably the most painful thing I had ever experienced in my life. So
Phil, let me stop you real quick.
Sure.
For those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. We're talking to Mr. Phil Williams, an HR executive in the Metro Atlanta area. And he is describing an experience that I'm not sure you even had noticed. It's not like you had been ill and you had kind of a warning, right?
Right. There was no warning. It was, we thought we were fixing something else and it seemed to be working. And then all of a sudden, it's not working and I'm itching still uncontrollably. And so, going back to this, Karen, at this point, I'm at a hospital. I'm trying to position my body so they can run all kinds of tests. And this one particular evening, I remember my sister-in-law sitting with me, and I guess I was really trying to fight sleep or whatever it was. And finally, I drifted off. And in the middle of me drifting off, and I didn't share this part of it with you, it's just kind of coming back to me. I remember a doctor walking into my room with this white suit on and this hair down to his shoulder. I thought, oh God, this is it. I'm getting ready to get out of here. I don't have to deal with anyone else. I don't deal with anything else. And the doctor leans over and he tells me what his name is. I can't remember it. And he says, I want to pray for you before we do a lung biopsy. And I'm thinking like, oh shoot, that was kind of anticlimactic. I'm kind of kidding with myself thinking I'm getting ready to go to heaven and you want to look inside of my lungs.
Oh my goodness.
So that happens. And as he and his team leave, I remember asking one of the nurses, who was that doctor? She goes, what doctor are you talking about? And I said, didn't someone come in here and do a lung biopsy? And it's like, no. And I'm thinking like, come on, you guys are kidding me.
Some of y'all gonna get that. I'm just saying.
And so
I need my fan.
It was after that point, guys, I guess someone somewhere said, what we're doing is not working. So they send me to Tampa General Hospital and they put me in an ICU burn unit. And that is really severe. Those are the severe cases. Right. And by now I'm in so much pain. And they describe it to my family as Stevens-Johnson syndrome. And for the viewers, I would say go to the internet, but I want to warn you before you get there. It's not a very pretty sight. And all that you see on the internet, those things were happening to me.
My goodness.
So I'm in an ICU burn unit. Now I'm thinking, my faith is just really knocked off the mantle because, in my faith, there was my why. In my faith, there was my whole reason and purpose for living. And so now all of that has changed. I'm in this semi-comatose kind of state. Mm-hmm. They have my body completely wrapped in some kind of material. Mm-hmm. I'm getting these saline solution baths every 6 hours because the pain is so bad and I need some kind of relief. Mm-hmm. And in that comatose state, I'm hearing my brother have this conversation with the doctor. So is he going to make it? And the doctor says there's a 70-30 chance that he will not, because we've not seen a lot of Stevens-Johnson syndrome patients make it to this point or be able to walk out of the hospital.
Wow.
But it was at that point, too, I would share with you that I was having this vision or this dream, you might add. And I clearly remember asking God, am I going to survive? And he said, yes. And I said, so what is it you want me to do? And he said, I simply want you to tell people that I am a healer. And so all of that, all of those things that happened in the sense of, that illness, it really felt like a refiner's fire, that something was happening to me that would change my whole journey, in the sense of I would still be on that path. The journey will still continue, but it won't be the way that I had planned it. Wow. And that's really the message that I really want people to take away from this is your why is important, but sometimes you don't get to plan some of that. Yeah. And a lot of times you get thrown off in a way that your why no longer makes any sense. But I also want you to believe that if it's truly your why, then your why is not a weather front, because as a weather front, it goes in and out. You have the highs and the lows that clash together, and they create these thunderstorms. But if you really understand and you really know your why, and if your why can be grounded in prayer, if your why can be grounded in the Word of God, if your why can be grounded in praise and worship, then you will understand what I'm sharing with you, that sometimes it just does not work out the way that you want it to work out, and God simply has a bigger and better plan. What I realized about the bigger and better plan is it brought me here to the Atlanta area over 3 years ago. And I got to put a plug in for networking, Karen. Networking to me has been the key for me even sitting here talking to you today. Right. A lot of people say it can be kind of passe and whatever other words they want to apply to it. But I'm a firm believer that if you enjoy winning others over, not for them to like you, but to have some common ground, then you'll find the space of networking to be a very positive thing for you. And I just have to share with you that all of the relationships that I have been able to work into here in the Atlanta area have been very helpful. Lawrence and you, Karen, you're both a witness to my networking with you. And this is, where we are today. So it's been an awesome journey. There's some things that I would change in the process. I would tell you, yes, nobody wants to have pain in their life. Nobody wants to feel their skin coming off of their body when they're still alive. That's not a lot of fun. But networking and being patient with your why is really, really, really important. And so that's my story. There are some nuances to that story that I think are mine personal, and I kind of hold those really close to my vest because they actually help me to further define what my why is, and it helps me to further my relationships with people. I can't say that I'm an extrovert, but being an ESTJ, it's spot on about me. I don't care what people say about self-assessment. That's me.
Well, and if I could jump in, Karen, you know what? There's a that story, that part of your life resume is what comes out of you, and there is a stillness that in a presence, because you came through, and now you're a walking testament of having a strong why. And I believe those, and you talk about those storms, when you're in them, they can seem real. And that's where hope is lost. That's where all those other things are lost. But when you're clear, right? And for those listening, those watching, if you didn't hear anything, he put his faith, he put his trust in his beliefs. And again, he filtered everything through that. And then he got out of its way and said, hey, I'm not going to try to stop this. I'm not going to try to pray past the process, but I need to go through, because there's going to be an end to this.
Yeah.
Good, bad, and different. It's going to come to an end. And I'm going to choose how in the posture I'm going to take at the other end of this. And so throwing all caution to the wind, he was like, you know what, I'm just going to pivot. Well, again, and Karen, we talked about this. Getting to your why is not a straight line.
Right.
If we could script it out ourselves, it would be a humongous cinema action movie where we're always flying through the air with capes and saving people. But no, sometimes you're going to go through some stuff. Yeah. Guess what? If you woke up, you're going to go through some stuff, but you have to decide of which character is going to come up for you. Right. And again, you could choose to be the victim, or you could be the victor in the midst of. And again, at the end of the day, I love a little story about Meshach, these 3 boys that was in a fiery furnace. But they came out and they didn't smell like anything they had went through. And so that's a part of that why is like, look, I came through it. And today, looking at you today, I wouldn't even like, what? Your skin was falling off. You went through the fire. And I love your refining fire. It's like the potter and the clay. You got to heat the pot back up to fix the crack.
Right.
And so those are the things that I love about understanding what your why is, because once you understand, you can revisit it, look at your resume, and then you can pull yourself through. So thank you so much, Phil, for being an overcomer and then sharing your story, because you are a launching pad for others to see.
Listen,
go ahead.
I just want to set the context, because before we even went live, Phil and Lawrence and I, like we could just sense that something was happening. And I don't know who this is for. I just think, and this is just me, that every single Monday morning Jumpstart, I know is for somebody. Our topic today is the path back to your why isn't always a straight line. That was our topic. Okay. And so as you're listening to Phil's story and listening to some of these power plays and these nuggets, I hope you're picking up some things. So when things don't go your way, when things happen that you don't expect, if I told y'all some of the things that have happened in my life, you may reconsider. Karen is not quite as fabulous as I thought she was. Those pearls are smokescreen. I'm just saying. And here's what I know: every single one of us has a mask that we wear. I'm working with a group of physicians right now, an amazing organization. And one of the administrators mentioned to me a poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar called "We Wear the Mask." And it talks about all the masks that we tend to wear to cover things up. And here's why this is important. If you're a business owner, maybe, I don't know, maybe you had the Small Business Association primer class before you started. Maybe you had, a cash infusion when you got started, and you had networks and people set up along the way. I don't know any of those people right now. Maybe that's coming, Oprah. I'm here. But I didn't start that way. I started with a good idea and the prompting of the Holy Spirit and some folks who gave me a chance. That's what I started with. But all along the way, from the beginning to the middle to now, I've had things come up that tried to take me out. Maybe you're that business owner and 2020 tried to take you out. Maybe you're that professional person who just got promoted or just started a new job, and 2020 tried to grab you by the throat and to drag you into the wilderness. Listen to me. Purpose wastes nothing. Mm-hmm. It wastes nothing. What you think is a roadblock, what you think is trying to silence you, I need you to stop cowering in the presence of that thing. And I need you to start getting curious about that thing. Now, right now, we're talking about the wilderness experience. For those of you that have seen all the stuff on social media and on our website, we're running a webinar right now that is the precursor to our digital course. It's called The Path Back to Your Why. That's the webinar. It's absolutely free. We're going to give you some tools and some strategies to be able to look at your why a little more closely. Then we're going to introduce you to the course if you want to go a little bit deeper. But Phil joined us in our first webinar, and he mentioned something that was so powerful. And Phil, I'm going to just set the stage, and then I want you to unpack this a little bit, because I think it wrecked me. Like, I got off the call and I was like, I need a minute. But we were talking about the 5 stages of the wilderness. And the reason that we talk about the stages of the wilderness is because when you're lost, think about it. If you're out in the wilderness, the first thing you need to do is assess your environment. Then you need to figure out where the heck you are. If you have any plans of not staying in the wilderness, sidebar, none of us can afford to stay in the wilderness. Unless you are Bear Grylls or Grizzly Adams, none of us were intended to stay in the wilderness. And so we were unpacking these stages of the wilderness as a way to give people a sense of direction. But you popped in, Phil, and you said, Karen, I just want to give you some context. And I know this instinctually, but I think there's something to unpack here with what you said. You said, Karen, sometimes you don't have the ability to see or to know when you're going into the wilderness.
Right.
I need you to unpack that a little bit.
So what I mean by that, and I will be the example, going, again, the career is going really great. I make what I think is this great decision. I've thought it through. My plan is to get my degrees, and all of a sudden I get snatched out of my plan and put into this wilderness. And the wilderness is, you get sick, you're almost unto death, and you're burning from the inside out.
My God.
So now, what do you think about your plan now, Phil Williams?
Wow.
So I'm not thinking about my plan, because I now have this wilderness situation that I got to somehow deal with. And what happens when that sort of situation happens for you is, still that self-motivation and that why is there. Don't forget about that. You can put that to the side. But now you're in this wilderness and you're trying to figure out, how do I get out of it?
Right.
I keep passing by what looks like a vehicle where all of my plans are, and I can't get in. I can't get back in to continue on with my plans. The wilderness says, buddy, you're in this now. I put you in this. You and I are going to figure out how to get out of it. But you can't do it without me. And that me, for me, was God. I went to God, and it's like, what do I do? This is happening to me. You put me in this wilderness for whatever reason it is. And I'm not faulting anybody for that. As a matter of fact, I'm grateful, because I came out of the wilderness. My motivation, my self-motivation is still there, and my why is still there.
Yeah.
But they're there with a different brightness to it, because it was wonderful when I saw it, but now I have to put dark glasses on so I can really clearly see that thing. So no, Karen, you don't get the opportunity to plan being in the wilderness. You don't get the opportunity to go step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 when you're in the wilderness. You're in it. It's like a battle. And this is probably something that you know for yourself, that I would say, Lawrence, in being in the military, when you go through basic training, you don't get to stop and say, okay, what was number 1 now? Or what was the second thing I was supposed to do? They're giving you your instructions and you have to do it. So being in the wilderness, a lot of times you don't get a precursor. You don't get a look ahead. You're in it, and you have to deal with each situation that comes to it. But don't forget about what your self-motivation is. Don't forget about what the why is, because, believe it or not, I'm a witness. God will allow you to come back to it. But when you come back to it, it will have a fresh face. It'll have a new revelation. and you can add something different to it.
Oh my goodness.
I love that.
There's so much in that. I want to go back to something that you said, Phil, about, your faith was challenged. First of all, can we just give some love to Phil for sharing so deeply out of his experience? I mean, this could not have been an easy thing to revisit.
Yeah.
But I'm overwhelmed, and I'm honored that you would take time to share these nuggets of wisdom and these power plays out of that very, very difficult wilderness. But you did not expect to be laying in a burn unit. You did not expect or deserve to be there. And to be clear, when he says he was working with living legends, if you do not know who Bishop Walter Hawkins is, if you do not know who Tremaine Hawkins is, I need you to go get the Googles, and I'll let you do that on your own. But anyway, he was at a highlight. I mean, that I know any number of us who'd be like, oh my gosh, just to sit at the feet of anybody, of the Hawkins children, the grandchildren, anybody, that is like, you think you make it, right? You do the work, you invest the time, you go to school, you meet the person in the right place, in the right order, you do all the things, and then something happens that spins you into a wilderness experience. We're talking about this today because one of the things that we are passionate about in this community is helping people ignite their why. And I'm going to tell you something. Your why may be in the boardroom. Maybe it's working for somebody famous, or maybe it's just serving those families and those individuals in the senior citizens home. Maybe it is building houses for those who are experiencing housing inequality. I don't know what it is, but our why is not attached to a role or a title. Everybody has a why. And that is why I say all the time, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. It is up to you to figure out what it is. I've told this story before, that my father was a very educated man, a Morehouse man. He went on to Newton Theological Seminary to become ordained. He was a military officer, a military man, retired, a full bird colonel at a time when there were not a lot of Black men serving at that level. He served with Colin Powell, and this incredible career. I mean, he invested. Talk about investing, y'all, right? And then when he retired from the military, as God would have it, he would be in these places and spaces that to my dad, felt like he was in obscurity. And he was like, wait a minute, I see all my friends going to all these different places and all that sort of a thing. And it took this one right here. And I wasn't all that spirit filled at the time. I didn't really know what I was talking about, but I knew this. I said, hold on a second. So you mean to tell me that you would have all of that, and God would put you in these places where the oldest person in the neighborhood needed somebody to bring her food because her children forgot about her, and you were the one that did it, and you don't think that has any purpose to it? Yeah. Sometimes your purpose will be hidden in the shadows to be able to put you in that refiner's fire. Now listen to me. This is just me. Everybody's got a different opinion. I do not believe that God causes us pain. I do not believe that God causes calamity. I believe he will use it. I believe the enemy means for harm, God will turn for good. I don't care what you believe. I believe that he will look at what's happening in the world, right? The world would filter what's happening now and say, oh my gosh, the world is ending. The world is ending. Whether or not the world is ending is not my business. What is my business is what's right in front of me. And what is your business is what's right in front of you. And what I love about your story, Phil, is that at some point you begin to repurpose and to reframe your pain. You begin to reframe your experience to say, hold on a second, I got to shut out the noise, right? We talk about this all the time, don't we, Coach Lawrence? You got to shut out the noise, And sometimes you got to do the work. You got to hear what is for you. You got to do the investment. You got to do the study. You got to do the prayer and meditation, taking care of your body, healing. Phil, there was a time when you just had to heal. You couldn't do any of those other things. You needed a season to do the work. Talk to us about that season of caring for yourself and bringing yourself back to wellness.
So very interesting point, Karen. And I want to say something about the reframe. I use this in my resume. My reframe is not to show blame. I'm not looking to blame anybody or anything for what happened to me, because it's me. And, you know, I'm not the kind of person to blame anyone. So now back to what you're asking. You know, I want to say, number one, thank God for family.
Yeah.
Because I have two siblings. One has since passed away, and I think I mentioned this to you too, Karen. The oldest sibling has been diagnosed with dementia. So we're around in fifth or sixth year. So it's progressing as it would. And so, but my brother and my sister-in-law were a huge help in helping me just simply get my act back together. There's a person in my neighborhood, my old neighborhood, and I have to give a shout out to her. Her name is Marjorie Patterson. She's 91 years old.
Hey, Miss Patterson.
She is an awesome friend of my family, and she did something that I'll never forget. I was sitting in the garage with my brother. We were just sitting there, and she drives up. She brings this 5-gallon container of strawberry ice cream. And I have to tell you that that was one of the most healing pieces of my recovery, that she thought enough of me, not even knowing what my favorite flavor was, but she bought this 5-gallon container of ice cream. And it was just that very subtle thing that helped me to get back together. But I also have to tell you, I really sat down and I began to read the word again in a very different way. And one of the things that was part of my healing was, you know, there's a passage of scripture that says obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I used to think, well, God, it's just the act. Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. And he said, no, that's not what I'm telling you, Phillip. What I'm telling you is this. When I tell you to do something, I am watching your behavior. I'm watching your attitude, that when I send you a message, when you roll your eyes at me, I got a real problem with that. That's the wrong attitude to have with me, and I'm God. And so to hear him say that to me is like, oh, wow, I got to straighten my act up. And so part of the healing for me really was to take what I already knew, Karen and Lawrence, and just allow God to just give me a different way of thinking about a lot of things, and to realize that my past, while it was great, that also meant that my future was going to be even greater. And so the healing thing for me was really almost this internal thing that I had to allow myself the amount of rest that I needed, because when the body is injured, there is nothing that you can do as a fast pace to get it back to where it can be in the way, in the place that it should be.
Yeah.
You have to let that thing do it by itself. But I also have to add this to it. Still today, there's some residual effects of Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Whenever something is really grating on, as they say in the hood, if something is grating on my last nerve,
Right.
then I start to itch. And it's a reminder, don't let this get you, because I'm still not that far away. And although the doctors remind me that whenever you take anything, or whenever we give you a prescription, you're on 24-hour watch, because anything could trigger that again for you. So it's really a lot of spending time healing, spending time resting. Those are the things that all of us need. You know, that respite piece, when they say get 8 hours of sleep, they really mean that. That's really important for your body to begin to heal and for you to fall into what they call REM sleep and have whatever dream it is that you're going to have. It's important for you to be able to get that rest. So I would tell you that's how I was able to begin to heal, was to get a lot of rest. And yes, I did. I ate a lot. I had a lot of good food, comfort food. And just having family around was a big piece for me.
Yeah, and Karen, if I could,
Lawrence, come on in here.
So one of the things that as Phil, I'm just been getting full this morning from being in both of your presence. But one thing that I got is you were working a muscle, you were building a muscle, and the other part about you and those that are watching, like just the presence of peace. Right. There's the passage that, the peace that passes all understanding. Yeah. That can only come when you exercise the muscle of patience and peace. Mm-hmm. And again, like you said, it's like, okay, I'm following, waiting on instruction, but I'm continuing to move. I'm continuing to heal, and I'm continuing to look for that guiding light. But you were building that muscle. And again, you were given one, and anybody knows anything about lifting weights and working out, when the pain and the pressure, the muscle stretching, that's muscle growth. And so if you don't put yourself in understand what you're in, you won't rest to allow that muscle to actually rebuild itself, to get the elasticity and all that other stuff that it needs to make you stronger and for you to actually see the effects of it. And so today, like just the peace in the presence of you, like people in Karen, and even in your life, when people see you, like people, oh man, Karen got it all put together. No, you worked a muscle. Like you continually work that muscle. Yeah. And again, you don't run from it. Mm-hmm. We're assertive in the way that we live each and every day, even though what's in front of us is like, oh man, again? Again? I mean, I want to go to sleep.
I love what you're saying here, Lawrence. Yeah. There's so much going through my head, I can hardly keep up with my thoughts, which is usually how it works for me. But the idea that you had to take a step back to be able to heal, you had to allow people to support and help you. This is a word for somebody in this community who is feeling a little bit lost, a little bit disconnected. And I'm going to be honest with you. I created Rock Your Vision because I did not have a huge network. I did not have, at the time, I didn't grow up with 17 cousins down the street who could, whatever. And so I created the community that I needed in a very purposeful way. I wanted us to walk out of this experience in Rock Your Vision for however long the Lord would have it, where we could help each other. We encourage each other. We support each other. We do business with each other in this community. We hold each other accountable in this community. I mean, this is real stuff. I love the fact that there are all kinds of things to be involved in, but that is a very real thing. But I love the fact that you did that. And so really my word for those of you that are watching, maybe you're running a small business and you're doing all the things, right? You're chief bottle washer and accountant and doorman and all of those things. I get it because I get real dressed up here. But yesterday I was like in my overalls, like cleaning out the garage and making space for our t-shirts and stuff like that. Like it gets real sometimes, right? There is blessing and there is purpose to those seasons where you are doing all the things and you're straining through it and you feel like you're in it by yourself. You said something and I wrote it down. I swear I did write it down, but you were talking and I could not. You said my reframe is not to blame. I want to go to this for just a second because when life gets really hard, I don't mean like hard, like magazine worthy hard. I mean, like nobody wants to hear that part hard. When it gets to be like that, it can be very, very tempting to go inward, right? To let the wilderness silence you, muzzle you. It can be very tempting to let the difficult places that you're going through steal your joy. And as we say in the faith community, steal your testimony, right? You're a little bit bitter and you don't feel like getting better. You feel like maybe if people knew what I was feeling or what I was thinking, they would think differently of me. I can't tell you how many times I have said that and I have felt that. And one of the things that I know is that being honest is one of the first places to start. You know, putting rainbows and unicorns on stuff that is smoking is not going to get you to the other side of the wilderness. Sometimes
Right.
you got to deal with that fire. Sometimes you got to deal with that hard place or those emotions or that broken relationship. Sometimes you have to step back to be able to move forward. And I'm talking to you if you're in the corporate space. Sometimes I'm talking to you if you're in the entrepreneurial space. I'm talking to you maybe if you've got something going on in your family or in that significant relationship. There's something to be learned in that. Sometimes you've got to take a step back to be able to take a step forward. Here's the point. I love the fact that you said my reframe is not to blame. Blame is what we call a catabolic emotion. It's a catabolic kind of dynamic in a relationship. There are two types of energy. And don't any of y'all that are in the faith community come for me, because I'm talking about whether it's spiritual energy or any other kind of energy. The reality is that there are types of energies and types of life forces that will give you life, that will encourage you, that will build you up. Come on, y'all know what I'm talking about. This is good. There are life forces and energy that will drain you, that will chip away at your purpose and your mindset, right? Blame is a catabolic type of energy. It may make you feel good in the moment, but that thing will ricochet on you and it will draw your energy down. It will sap your creative ability. It will sap your ability to hold on to that rope. We talked in the webinar the other day, the path back to your why. By the way, the next one is today at 11:30. But anyway, we were talking about the fact that, you know, if you use the analogy of being lost in the wilderness, driving down a road, right? And all of a sudden a tree falls and knocks your car over the side of the mountain. There you are hanging from the mountain, hanging onto that rope. Blame cuts away at that rope, y'all. Blame does not reinforce the rope. Blame doesn't teach you anything about how to climb a rope. Blame doesn't give you options and opportunity. Blame will take away your ability to see the path out of the wilderness. I'm just saying. And I'm not telling you anything I read in a book. I'm telling you something that I had to learn for myself. Yes, I run 2 successful businesses. Yes, I've been married 16 years and have a gorgeous family. But y'all didn't know me when I was sitting in the campus in the parking lot of Kennesaw University, wondering if I was going to be able to eat that evening. You didn't know anything about whether or not I had just gotten laid off from my job and wasn't sure what I was going to be able to do next. Y'all didn't know me when nobody knew my name and I could not get an invitation to go to an executive coach. I'm just saying, I mean, I'm not going to preach. I'm just telling you, some of you are so focused on what you don't have. I need you to create an environment right where you are. Whatever your professional situation is, I need you to find your purpose in what you're doing. Maybe it is a path to something else. That is absolutely possible. Every experience that I've been through has been a path to right here. But when I was in the midst of it, it maybe felt like it was a wilderness that I wasn't going to get out of. But here's the thing. Whether you believe in Jesus and you believe in God or you don't, here's what I know for a fact. Everything that you're going through right this minute is a part of your purpose if you equip it and give it permission to be that. I need you to stop being crushed. I need you to get curious. I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's so important in what you're saying, Karen, is simply this. It is okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way.
There you go.
And there are days when I'm not okay, but I also know, because I am a believer, I also know that there is a Savior that died on the cross for me that's already taken all of the blame for me. And so I can't stay that, because if I stay that way, then nothing, absolutely nothing will happen except all of the grace that I say that, and Kyla Charlemagne always says to me, give yourself more grace. So every time I allow that thing to get in and not let it go, then where is the grace in that? Where is all of the things that you have done right? I always say it's I don't like the word but, because but almost negates what you just said. Mm-hmm. I always use the word and. I had I can't really say that it was any kind of confrontation, but there was someone on LinkedIn that I made a statement and they said, but, and I said, well, thank you for sharing with me. And I think the point that you were trying to make is great. And it was so important for my point to still be there. Yeah. There's a difference between and but. And so if you allow yourself in the reframe to blame others, that leaves you in the but category. And that's just not a good place to be.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, Mike, and Karen, to your energy thing, I got your back. Don't worry about it. But when it comes to, in your point earlier, Karen, your word, there are blessings and purpose in each season. That's that reframe. And in the energy part of it, whether it's catabolic or anabolic, it's a matter of how long you stay in each of those stages. Right. And again, like you said, you got to feel the feels. Take the time. And to Phil's point, yes, it's okay not to be okay, but you get to decide how long you're going to be there and navigate through it, process it. But here's the thing, see it for what it is, talk about it in context, and then actually use it as fuel. Wow. And again, use it as a platform to project you and propel you to the next thing. And again, I start at level 2 of catabolic energy. I'm a fighter. And you, I'm gonna take your cookies, but I understand that sometimes that's not the best option to take at the time. So now I've shifted how I show up to a room, and I like, you know what? I'm going to win, and I'm going to give you the option to win too. It's almost the and, right, Phil? Here's my point, and I hope you allow yourself to win as well in my presence, instead of, hey, I'm a win, but I really don't care if you do or not. Right now, I was like, you know what? If I'm really about community, if I'm really about connecting in an authentic way, there needs to be an and, not a but. And also making sure I lead with grace.
Wow.
Because some people won't encounter us if they believe there's a but in every comment that you make to them. And so I began to model what servant leadership looks like. And I love John Maxwell, anybody out there. And again, talks about a leader who knows the way, goes the way, but then they also extend a hand and show the way. And so when you're navigating through this life, and what I love and appreciate about Karen and Phil is that you're not just allowing yourself to tell your story at every opportunity, but you're bringing others along with you to say, hey, I want you to develop your own voice too. Yeah. And one thing that we have to understand, particularly as coaches and leaders and speakers, is that some people just don't have the words. They haven't exercised their voice to actually put things into words of what they've gone through so they can use it as fuel. So and so when you, and again, grace, allow people just to process it, fumble through it, fail forward all the way, all the antidotes, just allow it to happen and create a space. And I believe that's really what having our why. If you really look at your why, we've all been given the same one. It's to be salt and light in the earth and in the Great Commission, and to bring others along. But it's to extend grace so that people feel welcome wherever they are. And again, not saying you got to be totally whole and not messed up. Well, that ain't realistic, because we a whole lot of messy at a majority of the day.
Hot mess.
Hot mess.
I got a t-shirt and a belt buckle and a cup. I got all the things.
I got a starter kit.
Yes, that say hot mess. And you know what? Everybody that you look at. So for those of you that are watching this in the live stream, and I'm gonna pop over in just a second, because Pastor Andy had a really good question. I want to end with that question. But when you're looking at people who look like they have it all together, they may have it all together. They may have bits and pieces that are all together, but how they got there was a process. I work with some of the most successful leaders, some of the best brands on the planet, brands that you would know, people that you would know. And I can tell you for a fact that there are things that happen underneath the surface, and that is true for everybody. Your process is part of your journey, right? The things that you're going through, if you allow them to be used as stepping stones, not as roadblocks on the path back to your why, but as stepping stones, right? You see that log in front of you that's fallen across your path, and it looks like it's a redwood, right? Like, how am I going to do that? Well, if you've got 2 feet, 2 hands, or some version thereof, and if you don't have 2 feet and 2 hands, use something that's around you. I say all the time, if you can't move the thing that's in front of you, either go through it, around it, over it, under it, whatever it takes. Use the resources in front of you. I didn't have a network. I didn't have any. I built what I needed. I started having one conversation at a time. And I'm going to tell you something. When I started my executive coaching practice, and when I started Rock Your Vision, I'll use Rock Your Vision as an example. I went to a business here in the place where I live, and I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing. Would you be willing to host me? And then I invited a few of my favorite people, and I said, let's talk about it. That's how I got started. So as you're building your business, as you're building your career, as you're figuring out, hey, what would it take for me to go to the next step? You have resources. In this community, we have Coach Lawrence Henderson, who is an amazing individual and corporate coach and facilitator. If you are a manager of other people and maybe you're struggling to figure out what to do with your team, you don't have to struggle by yourself. We've got Coach Kim Dudash in here, in addition to Coach Lawrence, who can help you. We've got Coach Phillip Williams. Maybe you've hit a roadblock and you're trying to figure out what to do now or next. You've got Coach Phil Williams in here who would be delighted to help you get on the path back to your why. I want to pop in real quickly to something that Pastor Andy Smith, he is our community pastor. If you don't know him, you should. Anyway, here's a question he asked for Phil. He said, did you see the role of compassion in your why as more important after your wilderness experience, or really no difference at all?
Compassion became extremely elevated for me. Wow. And here's what I mean by that. I know that my why is self-motivated. I know that I love managing people. I also, this is a tagline on my email, is solving the puzzle of human resources. And here's my favorite one, influencing behavior. If I can influence the behavior of a leader or an employee, then I've gotten the greatest satisfaction I could ever ask for.
Right.
There are 2 people. There's one person that I'm coaching and someone that I talk to often. And what I find out from the both of them is their alter ego is there to protect them. But sometimes you have to tell the alter ego, sit down.
Wow.
Because I don't need you to protect me in this particular instance. I need to let my compassion and my passion show through. So my compassion for myself, my compassion for others is just elevated at a level that I would just say is taller than the Empire State Building. It's just big for me. And by the way, Lawrence, we will probably fight over those cookies if they're chocolate chips. That's all I'm saying.
I love that. I love that. Listen, we have covered so much ground in such a little time. It's hard for me to believe that we're a little bit past the top of the hour. Phil, as we close, just real quickly, as we talk about this concept that the path back to your why is not always a straight line, what one quick thing would you leave with our audience this morning?
I would tell anyone that's in the wilderness, just be patient with yourself. Don't try and get out of that thing so fast that you miss the whole lesson. there is a blessing in the wait. It's okay to wait. It's going to get there. It's going to be there when you get there, because what is for you, nobody can take it away from you.
So good. So good. Coach Lawrence, how about you? Well, first, before I go to Coach Lawrence, Mr. Williams, how can we reach you?
All right. So there are 3 ways you can get a hold of me. I'm on LinkedIn, and it's all Phillip T. Williams. And I'm also on Facebook under Phillip T. Williams. And my email address is Phil, Phil, G as in girl, S as in Sam, 400 @gmail.com.
Thank you so much. I need y'all to reach out to Phil. He is an expert in human resources. Any organization that works with him is never going to be the same in the best way possible. If you're looking for a coach, I know Phil would love to talk with you. Okay, Coach Lawrence, I need you real quick. Leave us with just one thought on this idea that the path back to your why isn't always a straight line, and then let us know how we can reach you.
Yeah. The thing that keeps coming up for me is just get out of why's way.
Wow. Come on.
And just practice being. And learn the lessons throughout. So you can find me LinkedIn as well, full government name, Lawrence E. Henderson Jr. You can find me across social media at Boss Lab, BOSSLLAB. And again, www.bossconsultingllc.net. I would love to work with you and support co-creation of mastery.
Amen. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to thank Coach Kim Dudash, who was in the stream this morning. She had all kinds of power plays in here, y'all. I need you to go back and look at them. If you're watching it on replay, just put #replay in here so we can know that you're here. We would love to be able to be a support for you during this time. I want to thank Beverly Wilkes, who had all kinds of power plays going on. Her last little nugget was, when God tells us to pause, sometimes we interpret it as a stop, but reframing our mindset is so important. Reframing and not blaming is so important. Thank you, Phil. So good. Pastor Andy Smith, he was just all up in here, had so many great things to drop and just inspire us. Listen to me, you've got options. If you're watching this and you're wondering, you know what, I'm not really even sure how to rock my vision. I'm not sure if it's even time to rock your vision. I want to invite you to join us in our private coaching community. You can find us at there's a button at the top of the bar here in the Facebook group, or the Facebook page, and it says visit group. You can pop over there. We've got all kinds of things going on there. We have our webinar coming up at 11:30 today. That's our 3rd one. Our last webinar is happening on Friday the 13th, this coming Friday at 7:30. We've got a big group there. So feel free to join us there as well. And we are going to be launching our digital course called Reclaim Your Why. The digital course is really for those who want to go a little bit deeper. We've got options in this community, whether you need a little bit of community or you want to just do it one-on-one. We've got different options for you. It's one of the things that I love about it. And hold on for a second. Let's remember who we have in this community. These are folks who are doing life on their own terms and figuring it out, right? Progress and purpose is a journey. It is not a destination. You'll know when you get there, at least for me, when I see him face to face. For you, whatever that means, we are so excited that you're here. I'm going to leave you with this one last thing. We are an incredibly diverse community. Some of us are Christians, some of us are Muslims, some of us are Buddhists, some of us are non-believers, some of us are gay, straight, you name it. We've got a little bit of everybody in this community. And I need to clarify this, because I learned this morning actually, that one of my very dear friends, one of the women that is one of the bedrocks of my tribe, experienced racism. Not subtle racism, full out racism. And I just want to declare to you right now that this community, although I'm sure in my faith, I want you to know that you are welcome here. There is zero tolerance in this community if it even smacks of being something that is hurtful, disrespectful, dishonoring to the members of this community. I will deal with it swiftly by removing you from the community. This is a place where we do life together. We figure it out together. I will let God do the work. I'm going to do the praying and I'm going to do the slaying. I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up and give you everything I can out of my own experience. We've got options that are absolutely free, that are full of value, full of impact. We've got options that you can purchase if you want to go a little bit deeper, working with our coaches one-on-one or doing digital course material. We've got a little bit of everything. And when the world gets back to it and we do in-person events, we're going to be doing our retreat. We're going to have a retreat just for our team, for our coaches and our team. But then we're going to have a public retreat as well. We have in-person workshops and master classes. We got a little bit of everything. But I just wanted to clarify in case anybody was confused. This community will represent what we believe is the heart of the Father. And that is that you are loved, you are accepted, and you are cherished. So I'm going to leave it with that. I got a lot to say and a lot to do, and I know you do too. Coach Lawrence and Coach Phil, I want to just say I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for spending this time.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Anytime. You two, hold on just a minute. Everybody else, I'll see you on the other side and at 11:30 today for the webinar. It's absolutely free. I'll see you then. Talk to you later.